You know what I find fascinating? Studies show that in major cities across the world, over 50% of households are now single-person dwellings. That's not just a number. It's a revolution in human consciousness. And there's a brilliant reason behind the shift that most people haven't realized yet. When I work with people in my advanced workshops, I see something remarkable. The ones who've mastered being alone aren't just surviving, they're literally transforming their biology. Their brain scans show increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for higher thinking and emotional regulation. Let me share something personal with you. I remember the moment everything changed for me. I was sitting in my study, surrounded by research papers about neuroplasticity when it hit. We've been programmed, literally programmed, to believe we need relationships to be complete. But here's the kicker. Your brain doesn't know the difference between the emotions you create internally and those triggered by external relationships. You can produce the same feel-good chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, all by yourself. Think about this. Every time you reach for a relationship to feel whole, you're reinforcing neural pathways of dependency. You're telling your body, I need something outside of myself to feel good. But what if I told you that the most powerful relationship you'll ever have is with your own consciousness? Here's what's happening in your brain when you're in a relationship. You're constantly adjusting your behavior, thoughts, and emotions to maintain homeostasis with another person. Your brain is splitting its resources, dividing its attention. But when you're alone, something extraordinary happens. Your neural networks start firing in perfect synchronicity. You become what I call energetically coherent. The latest research in neuroscience shows that people who master solitude have stronger neural integration. Their right and left hemispheres communicate more effectively. They show increased gray matter in regions associated with self-awareness and emotional regulation. This isn't just psychology, it's biology. Wait to something that might shock you. Relationships, as most people experience them, are actually keeping them addicted to their past self. They're using others as emotional crutches, as external sources of serotonin and dopamine, when they could be producing these chemicals naturally, abundantly, through their own mastery of self. What I'm about to share with you over the next hour will challenge everything you've been taught about relationships and happiness. I'm going to show you step by step how living alone isn't just an alternative lifestyle. It's potentially the most advanced way of existing as a human being. We're going to look at the science, the biology, and most importantly, the practical steps to transform your solitude into a superpower. The question isn't whether you can live alone, it's whether you're ready to experience the most profound relationship possible, the one with your own evolving consciousness. Are you prepared to break free from emotional dependency and step into true biological and energetic independence? Let me share something remarkable about your brain. Every time you choose to be alone, you're not just spending time by yourself. You're literally rewiring your neural circuitry. This isn't theoretical. This is hard science happening in real time inside your skull. When you're constantly in relationships, your brain operates in what we call a rective mode. You're always responding to someone else's energy, someone else's emotions, someone else's needs. But in solitude, something extraordinary happens. Your brain shifts into what neuroscientists call introspective neural processing, the default mode network. That's the network in your brain responsible for self-reflection and internal awareness. Becomes incredibly active. Let me explain this in practical terms. Your brain has roughly 100 billion neurons capable of making up to 1,0,0,0,0 connections each. When you're alone, these neurons start forming new connections based purely on your internal state, not. It's like having a clear radio signal instead of static interference. Here's what's fascinating about stress reduction in solo living. Studies of cortisol levels, that's your stress hormone, shows something incredible. People who've mastered living alone have up to 50 lower baseline cortisol levels compared to those in relationships. Why? Because they're not constantly managing the emotional weather of another person. Their nervous system isn't perpetually in fight or flight mode from relationship dynamics. Think about your morning routine when you're alone. There's no negotiation, no compromise, no emotional adjustment needed. Your brain can focus all its resources on regulatory functions and creative thinking. This isn't selfish. It's optimal neural functioning. Your autonomic nervous system shifts from sympathetic stress response to parasympathetic rest and digest more easily. Now let's talk about decision-making. When you're alone, your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, doesn't have to factor in another person's preferences, emotions, or potential reactions. This creates what neuroscientists call clean decision pathways. Your choices become faster, clearer, and more aligned with your true desires. You're not splitting your cognitive resources between your needs and someone else's. I've seen brain scans of people before and after periods of intentional solitude. The difference is stunning. The neural density in areas associated with emotional regulation and executive function actually increases. You're not just feeling more decisive, you're physically building a more capable brain. Here's something most people don't realize about building new neural networks. It's every time you navigate a challenge alone, you're strengthening what we self-efficacy circuits. These are neural pathways that reinforce your ability to handle life independently. It's like building emotional muscles. Each solo experience, each problem solved alone, creates stronger neural connections for future challenges. The biology of self-sufficiency is particularly fascinating. Your brain actually produces more brain-developed neurotrophic factor and goes outside of your brain. Think of it as fertilizer for your neurons when you're regularly engaging in independent problem solving. This means your brain becomes more adaptable, more resilient, more capable of handling whatever life throws at you. You're also training your brain to maintain emotional equilibrium without external support. This isn't about being an island. It's about being your own emotional ecosystem. Your hypothalamus learns to regulate your mood without depending on another person's presence or approval. You become what I call emotionally self-generating. Let me share a profound truth. Every time you choose solitude over dependency, you're not just making a lifestyle choice. You're engaging in active neuroplasticity. You're literally sculpting a more evolved brain. Your neurons are firing in new patterns, creating pathways that support independence rather than coding. And here's what's really exciting, and seeing this neural reorganization become self-reinforcing. The more you develop these independent neural networks, the more natural and rewarding solitude becomes. Your brain starts to crave the clarity and coherence of being alone rather than the neurochemical roller coaster of relationship. Think about this in relationship-dependent people. The brain's reward centers are constantly seeking external validation, but in self-sufficient individuals. These same reward centers light up in response to personal achievements, quiet moments of reflection, and self-generated states of joy. You become your own source of positive neurochemistry. This isn't just about being alone. It's about creating the most advanced, most capable version of your brain possible. It's about optimizing your neural architecture for maximum personal growth and evolution. When you understand the science, being alone isn't just a choice. It's a sophisticated strategy for accelerated neural development. Let's talk about something that's been programmed into your brain since before you could even speak. Society has installed a powerful operating system in your mind, one that says you need another person to be complete. It's time to understand this programming and break free from it. From the moment you're born, you're bombarded with masochists. Find your other half. You need someone to complete you. Being alone means being lonely. These aren't just ideas. They're neural pathways that have been carved into your brain through years of repetition. Every romantic movie, every fairy tale, every wedding celebration has reinforced these pathways. But here's what nobody tells you about the energy cost of relationships. Your brain processes about 400 billion bits of information every second, but you're only conscious of about 2,000 of those bits. When you're in a relationship, a massive portion of that processing power goes to managing another person's emotions, anticipating their needs, and maintaining harmony. That's energy that could be directed toward your own evolution. Think about your last relationship. How much time did you spend thinking about what they were thinking? How much energy did you invest in managing their emotional state? The average person in a relationship spends up to 70 of their mental energy focused on relationship-related thoughts and emotions. That's 70 of your creative potential, your manifestation energy tied up in maintaining a connection that society told you. Society has created what I call a relationship addiction loop. It works just like any other addiction. When you're in a relationship, your brain releases oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, the feel-good chemicals. When you're alone, your brain creates withdrawal symptoms, making you feel like you need another person to feel normal. But here's the truth. These chemicals are already inside you. You don't need an external trigger to produce them. Breaking free from emotional dependencies isn't just about being physically alone. It's about rewiring your brain's emotional reward system. Every time you resist the urge to seek validation from another person, you're weakening those old neural pathways and building new ones. You're literally rewriting your brain's operating system. There's something profound about reprogramming your subconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference between a real relationship and one you've created in your meditation. When you sit in silence and generate feelings of love, joy, and completion on your own, your brain produces the same chemicals it would in a relationship. But here's the key difference. You're in control of the production. You're no longer dependent on someone else's behavior to feel good. The most powerful way to break this programming is to become aware of it in real time. When you feel that pull toward a relationship, pause and ask yourself, is this my authentic desire or is this my programming? Every time you choose yourself over social expectations, You're strengthening your neural pathways of independence. Your subconscious mind has been running programs about relationships for years. But here's what's amazing about your brain. It's always ready to learn new patterns. Every morning, when you wake up alone and choose to feel complete, you're installing new software. Every night, when you go to bed, peaceful in your solitude, you're reinforcing these new patterns. Remember, this social programming isn't your destiny, it's just your starting point. You have the power to rewrite every belief, every pattern, every program that says you need someone else to be whole. This isn't about rejecting connection. It's about choosing conscious independence over unconscious. Your brain is waiting for new instructions. Are you ready to give them? Let's talk about something extraordinary happening in the quantum field around you right now. Every thought, every emotion you generate creates an electromagnetic signature that extends about 3 to 5 feet beyond your body when you're truly connected to yourself. This field becomes incredibly coherent, incredibly powerful. You see, quantum field theory shows us something remarkable. Your thoughts and emotions aren't just abstract concepts. They're actual energy patterns that interact with the fundamental fabric of the universe. When you're alone, focused, and centered, your personal energy field isn't entangling with anyone else's. It's pure, undiluted you. Let me share something profound about meditation and solitude. When you sit alone in meditation, you're not just relaxing. You're literally tuning into your own quantum field. Your brain waves begin to synchronize. The electrical activity in your heart becomes more coherent. You start producing what scientists call organized energy patterns. This is where the magic happens. Most people never experience the full power of their own energy field because they're constantly merging it with others. Think about it. In relationships, your field is always blending, always compromising. But in solitude, particularly during deep meditation, you can generate an energy field so powerful it can actually be measured by magnetometers several feet away from your body. Here's what's fascinating about creating your own emotional signature. Every emotion has a specific frequency, a specific vibration. Love vibrates at about 528 HA. Joy has its own frequency. When you're alone, centered, you can learn to generate these frequencies at will. You're not receiving them from someone else, you're creating them yourself. I've seen this in advanced meditators in our workshops. Their EEG readings show something remarkable. When they focus on self-generated love, their brain waves become more coherent than when they're thinking about receiving love from someone else. The frequency is cleaner, more stable, more powerful. Let's talk about internal coherence. Your body has multiple rhythm-generating systems. Your heart, your brain, your digestive system. When you're constantly adjusting to another person's presence, these systems often fall out of sync. But in solitude, especially during focused meditation, these systems can synchronize perfectly. This is what we call psychophysiological coherence. Think about your heart for a moment. It generates the largest electromagnetic field in your body, about 100 times stronger than your brain's field. When you're truly connected to yourself, this field becomes incredibly organized. The heart rate variability patterns become smooth-ordered. This isn't just poetic. It's measurable science. The science of self-love is particularly fascinating. When you generate feelings of self-love, your body produces nitric oxide, which dilates your blood vessels. Your vagus nerve activation increases, reducing inflammation. Your immune system becomes more efficient. You're literally creating a biology of self-healing through self-connection. Here's something most people don't realize. Your cells have receptors for emotions. When you're consistently generating positive emotions from within, rather than seeking them from relationships, these receptors become more sensitive, more responsive. You need less external stimulus to feel good, because your cells are tuned to your own positive emotional broadcasts. In our advanced workshops, we use heart rate variability monitors to show people something amazing. When they switch from thinking about receiving love to generating love, their coherence scores often double or triple. The body literally functions better when you're your own source of positive emotions. Your brain has some called mirror neurons. They fire both when you experience something and when you observe others experiencing something. Here's the key. These neurons don't know the difference between external love and self-generated love. When you practice self-love in deep meditation, these neurons fire just as strongly as they would in a loving relationship. Every time you choose to sit in silence to connect with yourself, you're strengthening what I call your energetic sovereignty. You're building a field of coherent energy that becomes your natural state. This isn't isolation, it's elevation. You're not separating from others. You're connecting to the most powerful source of love and energy available. Your quantum field doesn't distinguish between love from another person and love you generate yourself. Energy is energy. By mastering self-connection, you're not just becoming independent, you're becoming energetically self-sufficient. You're creating a coherent, powerful field that attracts possibilities rather than needing relationships. This is the new human, energetically sovereign, internally coherent, and capable of generating all the emotional frequencies needed for an extraordinary life. Are you ready to become your own source of love, joy, and coherence? Your ability to create reality, to manifest your desires, operates at its peak when you're coming from a place of completeness, not need. This is where living alone becomes a superpower. When you're not splitting your creative energy between your desires and someone else's, something extraordinary happens in the quantum field. Think about the observer effect in quantum physics. It tells us that particles behave differently when they're being observed. Your thoughts, your intentions, work the same way. When you're alone, fully present with your creative power, you become the sole observer of your reality. There's no competing observation, no other consciousness diluting your creative force. Let me tell you what happens in the brain when you're manifesting from complete solitude. Your pineal gland, what mystics call the third eye, begins operating at its optimal frequency. You're not processing someone else's energy, someone else's dreams. Every ounce of your creative force is aligned with your intentions. Most people don't realize how relationships often create quantum entanglement that blocks manifestation. When you're emotionally entangled with another person, your energy field becomes intertwined with theirs. Your vibrational frequency has to constantly adjust, constantly compromise. It's like trying to tune a radio to two different stations at once. You get static instead of clarity. Here's what's fascinating about energy conservation in solitude. Your body operates on multiple electromagnetic frequencies. When you're alone, these frequencies can align perfectly with your intentions. There's no energy leak, no need to maintain emotional bonds, no requirement to match someone else's frequency. You become what I call energetically efficient. I've seen people in our advanced workshops develop what many would call supernatural abilities when they master being alone. Their intention affects random number generators. Their consciousness influences quantum events. Why? Because their energy isn't fragmented by relationships. They're operating as a complete, coherent quantum system. Let me share something profound about manifesting reality. In quantum physics, there's a principle called coherent states. These are states where all the waves are in phase, moving together. When you're truly alone, centered in your power, your thoughts and emotions can achieve this coherence. You become a stronger attractor in the quantum field. Think about the last time you tried to manifest something while in a relationship. How much of your creative energy was going toward maintaining that connection? How often did you have to adjust your dreams to accommodate someone else's? In solitude, every ounce of that energy can be directed toward your highest vision. The biology of manifestation is enhanced in solitude too. Your brain's neural networks fire more coherently. The pineal gland produces elevated levels of natural DMT. Your body's electromagnetic field becomes more organized, more powerful. You're literally becoming a stronger podcaster in the quantum field. Here's what most people don't understand about supernatural abilities. They emerge when you achieve what quantum physicists call phase coherence in your personal energy field. This is incredibly difficult to maintain when your field is constantly entangling with someone else's through relationship bonds. When you're truly independent, something remarkable happens. Your intentions become clearer, stronger, more focused. You're not broadcasting mixed signals into the quantum field. Every cell in your body, every thought in your mind, every emotion you generate is aligned with your creative purpose. This isn't just theory, it's measurable science. People who master solitude show increased activity in the brain's manifestation centers. Their DNA responds more coherently to their intentions. Their ability to influence quantum events becomes demonstrably stronger. Your power to create reality isn't diminished by being alone. It's amplified. You're not losing anything by choosing solitude. You're gaining the full force of your creative power, undiluted by emotional entanglements, uncompromised by relationship dynamics. Are you ready to become a pure, powerful creator in the quantum field? Think about this for a moment. Most people operate from emotions that are tied to survival, fear, anger, jealousy, attachment. These emotions are coded into our DNA, passed down through generations of humans who needed relationships to survive. But you're no longer living in that reality. You're ready for the next level of human evolution. When you choose to live alone, you're not just making a lifestyle choice, you're making an evolutionary leap. You're telling your body, your genes, your consciousness that you're ready to move beyond these primitive survival emotions. You're ready to operate from a new level of being. Let me tell you what happens in your biology when you break ancestral patterns. Your genes have memory, what scientists call epigenetic markers. These markers carry emotional patterns from your ancestors, patterns that say you need others to survive, to feel safe, to be whole. When you choose conscious solitude, you start rewriting these markers. You're literally changing your genetic expression. I've seen people in our workshops who've mastered being alone achieve states of consciousness that defy traditional understanding. Their brain scans show patterns similar to advanced Buddhist monks because they're no longer operating from inherited emotional programs. They're creating new states of being, new patterns of consciousness. This is where the power of focused intention becomes supernatural. When you're not dispersing your emotional energy in relationships, when you're not carrying ancestral patterns of dependency, your intention becomes laser-focused. Your thoughts aren't just thoughts anymore. They're instructions to the quantum field. Here's something profound about creating new states of being. Your body literally doesn't know the difference between an emotion you generate internally and one triggered by external circumstances. But there's a crucial difference. When you generate emotions yourself, you're not at the mercy of external conditions. You become what I call an emotional alchemist. Most people never experience elevated emotions without external triggers because they're addicted to the chemical cocktail of relationships. But when you master being alone, you learn to produce these elevated states at will. Your brain starts creating new neural networks that support these higher states of consciousness. Think about your nervous system for a moment. It's designed to respond to environmental cues, including the presence of other people. But when you master solitude, you develop what neuroscientists call self-directed neuroplasticity. You can regulate your nervous system, create elevated emotional states without any external stimulus. This is evolution in real time. You're not just changing your thoughts, you're changing your biology. Every time you choose to generate joy, love, or excitement on your own, you're strengthening these new neural pathways. You're becoming a new species of human, one that's emotionally self-sufficient. The most exciting part, these elevated states become your new normal. You're no longer dropping back into survival emotions when you're alone. You're maintaining coherent, elevated states because you've built the neural architecture to support them. Let me share something about consciousness evolution that most people don't understand. Consciousness doesn't evolve through comfort, it evolves through challenge. When you choose to be alone, you're challenging every ancestral pattern, every genetic program that says you need others to feel complete. Your brain is something called metacognitive awarenesses, the ability to observe your own thoughts and emotions. When you're alone, this awareness becomes heightened. You start recognizing emotional patterns that aren't yours. They're inherited, programmed, installed by society, ancestry. And once you recognize them, you can change them. This isn't just personal development. It's species development. You're part of a growing number of humans who are choosing to evolve beyond emotional dependency. You're creating new patterns of consciousness that future generations will inherit. Evolution doesn't happen in comfort zones. It happens when we dare to break free from old patterns, when we choose to create new states of being. Are you ready to become the next evolution of human consciousness? Your morning sets the frequency for your entire day. When you wake up alone, you have a precious opportunity. Those first hours are pure, uncontaminated energy. You're not managing anyone else's mood, not adjusting to anyone else's rhythm. It's time to use this power. Start before the sun rises. This is when the pineal gland is most active, when your body's ready to create new neural pathways. Sit up in your bed and immediately place your attention in your heart. Feel it beating. That's your own rhythm, your own life force, not someone else's, not a relationship's, yours. Depression, powerful energy management techniques. Place one hand on your heart, one on your belly. Breathe into these centers for 7 minutes. You're not just breathing. You're literally charging your body's electromagnetic field. This is your energy, your power source, requiring no external input. Your living space isn't just a home. It's an energy incubator. Remove photos of past relationships. Clear out shared memories. Not because they're bad, but because you're creating space for new energy. Place objects that represent your independent power. Crystals, books, artwork that speaks to your soul alone. Build your emotional self-sufficiency through what I call state training. Set 3 alarms throughout your day. When they ring, stop everything and generate a feeling of joy, love, or peace without any external trigger. You're teaching your brain that you can produce these states at will. No relationship will create a power hour in the evening. This is sacred time for advanced meditation. Sit in your space and focus on the energy center in your brain. Feel the pineal gland activating. You might experience unusual sensations, light patterns, vibrations. This is normal. You're accessing higher states of consciousness that only emerge in solitude. Practice what I call emotional weightlifting. When you feel the urge for connection, sit with it. Don't reach for the phone. Don't seek distraction. Feel the discomfort and choose to transmute it into power. Every time you do this, you're building emotional strength. Your daily evolution requires consistency. Keep a journal tracking your states of consciousness. Record moments when you successfully generated elevated emotions alone. This isn't just documentation, it's programming your subconscious mind for independence. Every morning you wake up alone is an opportunity for evolution. Every evening you spend in conscious solitude is a step towards supernatural abilities. You're not just living alone, you're pioneering a new way of being human. Are you ready to make every moment a doorway to your highest potential? Everything I've shared with you today isn't just information. It's an activation code for your evolution. The neuroscience, the quantum physics, the biology of being alone. It all points to one extraordinary truth. You are designed to be sovereign, complete, and incredibly powerful on your own. Think about what you now understand. Your brain literally functions at a higher level in solitude. Your electromagnetic field becomes more coherent when it's not entangled with others. Your genes express themselves differently when you break free from relationship. Your ability to manifest reality strengthens when your energy isn't split. And this isn't about being anti-relationship. It's about being pro-evolution. Every morning, you wake up alone. Every evening you spend in conscious solitude. You're not just existing, you're evolving. You're becoming what humanity is meant to become. Energetically sovereign beings, capable of generating their own elevated states. The future belongs to those who master their inner world, while others seek completion in relationships. You'll be operating from completion. While they're managing emotional dependencies, you'll be exploring supernatural abilities. While they're living in survival modes, you'll be creating new states of consciousness. Remember this moment. This is when you chose to step out of humanity's old programming and into your full power. This is when you decided to become something new, something extraordinary, a completely sovereign being capable of generating all the love, all the joy, all the power you need from within. You're not just choosing to be alone, you're choosing to become unlimited. Are you ready to live as the most evolved version of yourself?